very clear, something that we need to understand is that God's ways are not our ways. Because often we fall into a mistake that, well, really, the primitive religions fall into. That mistake is anthropomorphism. Big word, SAT word. You guys know what it means? It means you try to ascribe human attributes or characteristics to something. So oftentimes we'll see it in, like cartoons, like Bugs Bunny, right? You guys remember Bugs Bunny, the anthropomorphic rabbit, right? But in the ancient Greeks, the ancient Roman world, if you notice, the gods were anthropomorphic. The gods acted just like people. They weren't very virtuous. They often did evil things. They did the same things that people did. They just kind of lived forever and were bigger and stronger. But our God doesn't think like we do. Our God's ways are far more merciful than ours. And so Jesus tells the story. As he tells the story, the meaning becomes rather apparent. The vineyard is the vineyard of the Lord's, to which he has given to the people of Israel. And throughout history, he sent prophets to preach his word, to make sure that his word was being obeyed, and the people kept rejecting it. They rejected the prophets, and they killed the prophets, and they threw the prophets out. So finally, what does God do? He sends his son, Jesus Christ. Now Jesus is telling this story as he is on his way to Jerusalem. And he says, what do you think the landowner's going to do? He's going to kill those men. He's going to put them to an end and give the vineyard to someone else. But that's not exactly the way that God works, is it? Though he's extended his vineyard, he's made his vineyard welcome to anyone who wants to come into it. But God's way is mercy. See, God doesn't just forgive us a little bit. It's not like little droplets of mercy just falling on certain people. God showers us with his mercy. And God transforms us because his way is not our ways. Because where's Jesus going? As Jesus tells this parable, he's on his way to Jerusalem. And what's going to happen to him? He's going to be tried, found guilty as a criminal, stripped, forced to carry a cross, and crucified and die an absolutely humiliating death. And that seems like it's the end, right? But God's way isn't our way. God's going to transform him. God's going to resurrect him. He's going to rise from the dead, and his words are going to have power. And the church is going to grow all the way to all of us here today because of God's mercy, because God's ways aren't like our ways. And so Jesus is reminding them, as he's about to do this, he reminds them of a verse from the Psalms. Did you guys catch it? It's one of my favorites. I'll tell you why it's one of my favorites in a second. The stone which the builder once rejected has now become the cornerstone. By the Lord is this been done. It's wonderful in our eyes. See, God doesn't think like we do. Sometimes the world dejects us and rejects us. It's easy for us to feel dejected because the world doesn't understand us. People don't understand us. People call us names. People put labels on us. People tell us lies about ourselves. Sometimes we're inclined to believe that when God looks at us and he doesn't see all of our mistakes, all of our inadequacies. God sees his precious daughter. God sees his beloved son, whom he welcomes to take his place in his vineyard, whom he wants to be successful, whom he wants to bear fruit. We just have to learn to allow God to do that. The stone rejected by the builders has become the cornerstone. When I was a young person, I did not always make the best choices in life. Sometimes I made really stupid choices in life. And when I was in high school, I often made the choice not to do my schoolwork. I was a terrible student in high school. To the point where I was actually dismissed from a Catholic school because of my grades, because I just didn't apply myself the way I should. And someone who worked at that school once told my mother, and I quote, "There is no way in hell he will ever be a priest." Guess what, lady? Not only am I a priest by the grace of Almighty God, which is amazing because I did finally start relying on God's grace, doing the things that he's called me to do, paying attention to God who says that he is bigger than all of our problems, that he's bigger than our academic struggles, that he's bigger than our inadequacies, and not only did God, by his grace alone, not by anything I've done, that he called me to the priesthood, but I'm a high school chaplain at the high school that dismissed me. Because God's ways are not our ways. God's plans are not our plans. God desires your greatness. God desires your excellence. And the world might tell you that you're going to fail. And the world might tell you that you don't have a lot to offer. But you do. And God knows that. And God calls you to take your place in his vineyard. So it's your job to be the ones who bear fruit. Who bear fruit in the world. God has given each and every one of you innumerable talents, gifts. And gifts are meant to be given and shared. Not for your glory, for God's glory. You were meant to be a light to this world. You were meant to transform this campus. You were meant to transform this community. You were meant to work for the salvation of souls, each and every one of you. And you can do it. Don't tell me that you can't. Because see, that's the stone being rejected by the builders. But God says he can do amazing things through you. And this is why he tells us in the second reading we heard today, whatever is good, whatever is holy, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, think of these things. Because this is God's will for you. God wills you to bear fruit, no matter what this world says. And anytime this world gets you down, you say, I'm a son of God, I'm a daughter of God, and the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, he has my back. There's nothing that can stop him. There's nothing that can stop me when I let him stand behind me. Because the stone which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone.